Good morning, everyone. I hope you're ready to do some drawing today. How's everybody doing? Hopefully we've got all of our live components working properly. This is my first live here on your YouTube, so if things are going wonky, let me know in the chat and we will try to make some adjustments. But hopefully, right now, hopefully you can see me and hear me, and hoping that that is the case. From my side here, it looks like everything is all systems go. There might be a little delay on the chat as well, so I'm just hoping that that shows up here. All right. Well, I hope everybody's ready to do some drawing today. I've got a few different ideas in mind in case we go longer or shorter. It will determine how much we can accomplish. I know this is very not exciting at the moment as we sit here trying to make sure everything's working or not. Just got a message saying there might be an issue with the chat on the live stream, so bear with me a moment while I confirm that right now. Might be an issue with the chat on the live stream, so bear with me a moment while I confirm that right now. There we go. Now I can see the chats here. They weren't showing up for some reason, but looks like they are here now. So we've got a few people online. Thank you everyone for your patience. As a complete noob with the live system, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I'm glad things seem good and that you can hear me and see me okay. So excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much everyone for that information. I appreciate that. And looks like that is all good. So what's going on this morning with everybody? Do we have our pens and paper and pencils and everything ready to go? Are we going to just watch or are you going to draw with me today? I appreciate that, Kirishman. The intro worked and you could see and hear me without issues. That is a huge plus for the old guy trying to get it going. I mean, I'm not a technical novice, but with this stuff, I've never done it before. So this is all new to me. I'd rather sit with a pen and pencil in my hand and just do some drawing. But we'll get to that here in a few minutes. I thought it'd be fun to just chat some of my viewers here and some of the folks that we've been connecting with. And of course, some of you may remember that a big part of this stream was kind of a fun celebration, at least for me. I hope it'll be fun for you too. A celebration of the 500 subscriber mark that we hit a few days back. And that's really cool. And I'm super grateful to everyone for tuning into my videos here in recent months. And, all the feedback has been so encouraging and positive. And I'm very grateful for that. Got a long way to go for the goals that I'd like to reach here on YouTube so that I can monetize it. Not to charge you guys anything, but to make some money off of YouTube here and survive a little better. That's always a good thing, right? But that's a long ways down the road, but every little bit is helpful, and I'm so grateful to everyone's participation. And thanks so much for tuning in. And I see, Tamber, you said you've got a little of both. I assume that means paper and pencils ready to go, right? A little chat and a little drawing. Not sure which draw or which both you mean, but that's excellent. I'm glad that you're here as well. Looks like Gail is out there with us as well, ready to draw. So that's great. And I'm sure other people will pick up as we go. And this video, once we're done, this session will become part of my YouTube channel, videos on demand. So you'll be able to watch this at any time and review the details. So if we move too fast or something goes crazy during the process, don't let that bother you. Let's just keep drawing, right? That's the idea. So I've got a couple options too that I've been thinking about for drawing. And Tamara, you're a little drawing and watching. Excellent. I'm glad to see that. Glad that you're able to tune in. And I've appreciated, Tamara, your I apologize if I'm not saying that properly, but if your participation even on my Discord channel has been really fun. I've enjoyed chatting back and forth with you and seeing the drawings that you've completed by either following my videos or just things on your own. I think it's really excellent. That's why I started that Discord channel, so that people would have an opportunity to share their drawings back with me. And it just shows me what incredible creative people you are as well, and I think that's fantastic. Very fantastic. So, in fact, let me mention that real quick. I've gotten a few messages from folks with difficulty connecting to the Discord, and they've asked for a new link. I've triple, quadruple checked the link there on the channel, and it is correct. So if you're having issues with it, I recommend maybe waiting an hour and trying again. Sometimes the Discord servers can get overloaded, and it's not because of my channel personally, but just because of things going on, and it might not always connect. It can also have to do with the browser that you're using may be creating some problems with linking or the security settings that you have. Now, nothing that the Tangles and Toons Discord does will violate any security, but you may have settings on your system that are preventing certain steps from taking place just to get you signed up on there. There's no fees or anything like that. It just does require you to sign in so that I know I've got a new member there. But other than that, it's a very simple process. So keep trying if you're having any issues with that. But Discord is really fun. It's a slow start to the community there. I think we've got 13 or 14 people, and that is fantastic to have that. And even just the few of us have had some real fun sharing back and forth, and you can ask questions there. You can ask for clarifications. You can give requests for videos. Just anything that makes sense on the channel there. It's just a way for us to communicate. I do know that YouTube has the community feature, which I do not currently have enabled, and I've had some folks ask about that. I've looked into it, and there are some very positive things to it, and I may enable it in the future, but right now I guess there's some bugs with it that are preventing views from going out properly and so on. So until that's resolved, or at least I can confirm that, I've kind of held off on that part. So we're using the Discord. And Discord, quite frankly, gives us greater flexibility in how we manage things and how we take care of those interactions there. So don't hesitate to sign up for Discord if you haven't already. It's a great way to go. All right, let's see. What are some folks saying here? Kirishman confirms it's kind of a cool place to share artwork, and you've shared some yourself there, Kirishman, and I appreciate that very much. That's been great seeing the drawings that you've done, and I appreciate that. And yeah, you're right. Good point there about the program already being installed on the computer. You can access Discord just through a web browser, and that's very common. But the app, the Discord app, which is entirely free, does have a better performance record, I think, and it makes some of those connections a little easier, and it's easier for you to manage. You can have it on your phone or your PC, your tablet, etc. So yeah, good points. I appreciate that, Kirishman. Thank you for the reminders and tips about that. Well, you don't have to be a great artist. That's the beauty of art. It just gives us all an opportunity to create. And, oh, hi, Michelle. Nice to have you on board here today. Oh, and you're very welcome. I'm super encouraged that you've learned from my videos and that you've had fun following along. I'm so glad that you joined in with us today here, too. So thank you, Michelle. Good to see you. All right. Well, actually, let me see here. Let's make sure my other equipment is working. And let's switch over to the desk and tell me if you folks can see this. Hopefully you can see a tile sitting there. And everything is looking as good as it can anyway with my equipment. And so without further ado, let's start a drawing here. And I'm going to pull out, let me see, let me get a different pen than the one I had here. I'm going to just use a Micron PN, which is a very common tool here in Zentangle, or art in general. I love using the Micron pens. I've got a whole selection of them in colors and sizes. It just makes drawing really a pleasure, in my opinion. So glad that you can all see this. Well, let's start with this. One of the tangles that I want to do today on the live stream is called Dingsplatz. Here, I'll type this out since I don't have the ability to put it up on screen in the way that I normally would. Oops, I said dingbats. That's wrong. That's the old. That's what we call the little icons in printing. Dingsplatz. This is a very fun tangle that we can do that was sort of originated by the Zentangle headquarters. And it's just real simple, doesn't require any great skill, but it lets us really have some fun with some drawing. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start with our tile or our paper, whichever you've got, and we're going to just make a squiggle. Again, let me show you off the tile. So we're literally just going to do this kind of a thing. And well, actually we'll do it this way. I think this way will work better. And we're just going to make a goofy little symbol like that on our paper, but we're going to take a little more time than that just to make sure we can place it well. And here's how this is going to look. So we're going to start here, and we want to leave some space on the outside so we've got room to do some of our embellishments. But we'll just start in the tile here and just create some little loops and swirls. And you can vary the sizes of these and the placements. And then you just bring it back home like that. No plan, no structure, just create some loops and swirls. And let's see what we get. This is our Dingsplatz, and now we're going to embellish it with some other tangles. So I'll give you folks a few moments to create yours. Maybe ping me or something on chat. If I don't see anything, I'll give you a few seconds and then continue on. Because remember, even though we can't pause this live session, you'll be able to go back to the video after we're finished today, and you can review it if you need to. But we want to have some fun drawing together with this Dingsplatz. All right, so once you've gotten yours, and it doesn't have to have this number of petals to it, so to speak, but just create a handful of them so you've got something to work with. And now we want to create an aura on the inside, and I would say make it relatively thin. Don't make it too wide, but you don't want it super tiny either. And we're going to do some additional aura, so we're just going to create this aura and just literally follow this inner line that we first drew. Like that. And I'm just turning the tile to make it easier for you folks to see and easier for my hand to draw. Just like that. So we've created an inner line on that same pattern. And now we're going to aura the outside, but in this one we want to make it a bit wider. We want some width to it, and I'll show you here what I mean. We're going to just follow around like this, all around the outside. Giving it a wider distance than we did on the other one. And as you get into these tight areas, don't worry about that. Just vary it as you need to. If you hit the edge of your paper like I am there, you can just give it a little flick off the side there. And we just have created that second aura, a wider one. Now I'm going to do the next step, and then I'll pause for a moment, let you all catch up with me. What we want to do once we've created that outer aura is connect the corners with a line. So everywhere we see a corner, we're going to just draw a straight line, and it creates kind of a bevel to this outer aura that we drew on there, and that will allow us to do some fun things with the shading. So literally just going all around, and wherever those corners might have been, or are, I should say, we just want to draw a connecting line to those corners. just on that outer aura that we made. All right. So now we've got it like that. I'm going to pause for a moment. How's everybody doing with their drawing? Is it coming along okay? Remember, with Zentangle, it's not a race. There's no time involved other than practical limits that we may impose on ourselves, or in the case of a live stream, obviously, we can't stream for endless hours, but we'll stream here for quite a bit yet, so I'm not in a rush. I don't want you to be in a hurry. Just enjoy this process. Have some fun creating a piece of non-representational art. Good, Gail. Glad to hear that it's going well. Thank you for being here today as well. I appreciate that very much. All right. Hopefully everyone's not too far behind me, too light years ahead, light years behind, either way, because I don't want to get so far ahead that you become frustrated. That's the one difference between a live session in person and a live session on YouTube. They both go about the same way as far as the process, but I can't see the feedback of the class and can't see the people that I'm teaching or helping guide through this process, so it makes it a little trickier to know if I'm getting too far ahead of you. So please feel free to let me know in the chat if you're way behind or need some extra time, and we'll try to accommodate as best we can. But now we need to do some embellishing. We want to make some additional tangles or add some additional tangles to this. And there's a handful of things that we could do, and I'm trying to decide which one I think will look the most interesting and be the most fun for us. Let's try kind of a version of bales or ravel or rumpus. I've kind of seen them all looking very similar, which are tangles that we'll look at here, or versions of that in this centerpiece is what we're going to do. So what I want to do is create an orb roughly in the center of this little middle that we've drawn. Whatever shape it is, does not matter. It doesn't have to be a star. Maybe it's more of an oval. Maybe it's got multiple points like mine does. But what I want to do now is, once we've created this central orb, we're going to draw from the corners little curved lines. Now, some people call this a seed shape. That's fine. You can call it whatever you'd like, whatever makes sense to you. And we're going to just aura these lines and create little groupings of them, kind of like that. Here, let me zoom in a little bit in case that'll be helpful. And we just want to do that from each point out to this center. Now, if you hit another tangle pattern that you've already done, just sort of stop there and make it look as though that goes underneath. And as far as how many lines you draw, it's up to you. But we don't want to fill in the entire area, because we're going to do something a little different yet. But we don't want to make it so tiny that it's almost like they're not there. So we're going to try to find that that middle ground, as they say. And just draw some lines, leave some little variances. I'm doing these little gap differences on purpose because it creates a more interesting visual effect. If you perfectly space all your auras, then it just looks like a kind of a jumble of lines there. So it's okay to have some variance. Just like that. And we'll keep working our way around the tile here, around this inner pattern. All we're doing is creating auraed curved lines and just connecting it to that inner spot that we selected. And there's a little bit of overlap going on by the simple fact that we're hitting up against these other tangle patterns or these other lines that we've drawn. And we're just letting it stop naturally. We don't have to worry about forcing it or making ourselves pressured into a certain appearance or look. We're just letting these lines sort of take place until we think it looks good. just like that. So maybe it looks even, maybe it looks uneven. It doesn't matter. We're just filling that in and having some fun with these pattern designs. All right. How's everybody doing? Yeah, that's right, Kairsman. It's just when we're doing live sessions like this, it's a little more back and forth, waiting in between, and that's completely fine. That's what we want to do. We want to enjoy the process together. Good so far? Excellent. Glad to hear it. All right, for our next step, let's look at these little petal or loop shapes that we've created, and let's put some embellishments inside of those. Now what I'm going to do on some of these larger ones, maybe I'll alter every other one and just kind of see how it goes, and we'll decide our pattern as we go, so to speak. But I'm going to start again with an orb in the center. I'm going to ink this one in. And we'll zoom back in for you here. And now what I want to do is create some little curved lines that come spinning off of that every so often. And this particular pattern is used in a lot of Zentangle patterns. Excuse me. So we could name it a million things. Probably the most common name I recall is called pepper. But it's got similarities to well and different details there. But what we want to do, once we've drawn a few of those lines, there's no set amount, just draw a few of them. We're going to ink the ends a little bit and give them some weight. And once we do this, we may find that we want to fill in a few additional lines, or maybe we're going to be happy with how it looks right as is. So just sort of use your own visual preference here for your own drawing and create some interest with adding these weighted shapes. Now, for example, in mine, I think I'm going to add another one right in here. Just looked like that was a big space calling to me, and maybe one right here. And these will look really interesting once we once we shade them as well. So now I'm just going to continue this. I'm going to skip this little one, and I'm going to go here to this next one, and I'm going to do the same basic thing. I'm going to create that curved line in what I assume will be a proper spacing for my visual desire there. And once I've got that, I'm going to add the weighted ends to each of those lines. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to go around here, and I'm going to jump over to this one on my drawing and do again this same pattern. Just creating a little variance as I go around this Dingsplatz shape that we've made. And again, adding that weighting. Mine is all zoomed in. It's always surprising when I watch other artists' videos on YouTube or elsewhere. and their cameras are zoomed in, I know that it's zoomed in and I see that it is, but it's easy to lose the perspective of just how zoomed in that is. And it's funny because I'll look and I'll think, man, they've left so many little flaws in their drawing. But then when you zoom out, those flaws are invisible. This is zoomed in, huge. Look how big my finger is on this drawing. It's only that big, but it's filling your screen. So you can see that we're zoomed in quite a bit. That's true, Kirishman. I think that's really neat. That's one of the things that I love about Zentangle art is that you can have dozens or hundreds or even thousands of people following the exact same pattern and the identical instructions from the teacher, and all the drawings will come out differently. Of course, they're going to have similarities as well if they follow those instructions, but it's amazing how the same details are interpreted differently by different folks, and they all create such unique pieces. And sometimes it can be the subtlest of differences that really makes one drawing stand out amongst the others, not in the sense of being better or worse, but it just, you think, wow, that's a really neat idea, or that's a great way to shade, or I love how you connected these pieces together, etc. And so it's just a matter of the instructions that I provide in my videos and here today are just general guides. They're not the law. They're not, the rules of drawing. And in fact, Zentangle uses ideas and concepts that have been used in art for thousands of years in other contexts. It's just that we're putting them together in a sort of a unique pattern building way, and that makes it accessible to a great number of people without having to have any huge background training or anything like that. All right, so we've got a few additional spots to fill here, it looks like. So let's see, what can we do in these other spots that might be interesting? Let's see, we'll get a vote. Do we want to do something that's got some inking to it as far as inking amounts, dark spots, or do we want to fill this in with a lined pattern? Any thoughts, any ideas? I've got some preferences in my brain, but I'll get some feedback from you here in our live session. I'll give a moment in case anyone wants to respond. There's no right or wrong answer. It's not a trick question. No flashbacks to your school days. This is just for fun. And if we don't hear anything, I'll just continue on. So no worries and no rush. You folks may be needing to catch up with me there. We got a vote for dark spots, Kirishman says. We can add some, maybe we can do a combination and try to make multiple people happy, right? All right, let's do this then. Gail agrees with the dark spots. A little. Hopefully, I haven't caused you any traumatic moments here, PTSD, Kirishman, with the school flashbacks. You probably had really cruel teachers, right? Teachers are good folks. All right, let's do this. In these other spaces, or some of these spaces, I don't know how many loops you have. I don't know how spaced apart they are and so on. So just have some fun with these. Let's create sort of like a crescent moon shape. We'll put a little seed, or sometimes called a ladybug shape. We'll put that in here, and then let's ink that in. This will be our spot, Kirishman, our dark spot. Add a little more drama to the tile. It almost looks like an eyeball peeking out there. But now let's add, I'm going to turn my tile so I can see this a little differently. Now let's add some auras to this, just like in Crescent Moon. And we'll just fill this remaining space with those auras, just like that. Doesn't matter if it matches the outer details or not. And I'm going to do the same thing in the same direction over here on this one. By the same direction, I mean I'm putting the dark spot on the same side as I did the other one, just to create a little bit of symmetry or pattern there. And then we'll make some auras here. I think I'm going to do one more just like that. Even though it's right next to it, I think that's all right in my eyeball here. Just like that. And I think for these next two last little ones that I have, I'm going to do something I hadn't really thought of till right now. I'm going to also pretend like this set of lines here is escaping up into this. So I'm going to just draw a few more of those little lines up into there. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one, since they look like they're connected there, oddly enough. I don't know how effective that idea will be, but let's just see. It gave me something to do with those last couple odd little spots. All right, we'll zoom back out here. So far our Dingsplatz is looking like this. Who didn't, eh? Who didn't have trauma in high school? Whether it was from teachers or peers, usually the peers were a lot more cruel than the teachers, at least in my experience. All right, so we've got some details here. And let's add another element here. So let's do a connecting line between our little loops. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to go up a little ways here and just have some fun with it. Doesn't have to follow a same curve or anything. Just connect these these loops that we've done with a line. Your shape may come out a little bit different. It doesn't matter. Don't have to have a perfectly consistent space between them, or the width of it. Just let's make a connection here. So now we've added that additional dimension to our original spot there. And now let's do something here. Let's try. I think this is a version of, like, it's called Betweed or Hybrid. Different similarities between those patterns might become evident as we go. But I'm going to simply create like a diagonal line going to the corners that I've just created. And then I'm going to just make some auras kind of randomly alternating back and forth, just to create a kind of an interesting little pattern like that in there. At least we hope it's interesting, right? So we're going to do something similar with each of these. Just something to fill these in with a little different design, a little different shape. Instead of being dark, we've got just some lines. Maybe it looks like a woven piece there. Maybe it looks like wood inlays. Whatever you'd like to think of, that's completely fine. And there are better and worse ways to draw this shape. This just gives us some kind of a basis upon which to do that. Now, when we have a longer space like this, you could also alternate here to create some interest this other way. So we've got a line, let's say here, and then we can draw a line the other way. Don't let that confuse you. It's just a matter of trying to weave in details. It changes the appearance from, like this one, for example, but it's just a different way to add variety to your drawing if you so choose. Maybe you want it to look more layered like this, or maybe you want it to look more scattered like that with overlapping and pieces going in every direction. That's totally up to you. Just wanted to show you a couple different ways that you could go about that. Now here's an itty bitty teeny tiny one. I'm not going to have much room in here, so I'm going to just do a few little lines just to give the impression of that same pattern back in there. There we go. So I've worked all the way around that. Let's take a breath here for a moment. Well, hello there, Line Marithe. Am I saying that right? I'm not sure. I apologize. But thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm glad that you're enjoying the drawing so far. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Hopefully you're able to draw along and keeping up okay. How's the speed going for everyone in a live session? Doing okay with that? Well, we'll continue on here and add some additional details to our drawing. So hopefully by now we've got all of our little loops are filled in. We've got a central pattern, and we've got some additional filler in here. Let's create a small aura line wherever we made these other lines. Just kind of a loop to this that will complete it, hopefully, and sort of seal it off from the rest of the drawing, so to speak. Just a simple little narrow aura. Nothing fancy. Just going to add a little more finished detail to that. Let's add one additional external element. Now you might find that spaces like this, there's just no room here. We have a small amount of room here, a small amount of room here, so we've got outer edges. Some are more spacious than others, just the way we drew our original splat, and that's totally fine. What I'm going to do though is create, just for visual and fun, I'm going to create another of these orbs out here, or not orbs, I'm sorry, these crescent moon or ladybug shapes. I'm going to make a little circle in it, and then I'm going to ink in everything except that circle. That'll just create an automatic little highlight for us. If you have a white pen, you could do that after the fact, but I just find it easier to do it this way. And then we're going to add another aura, close aura to this. And then let's add some petals, and what we're doing here is in fact, let's add one more slightly wider aura. We'll make this a little bit different version than we used previously here on the channel. This is henna drum, or a version of it. So now I'm going to place some orbs inside of here. And if you want, you can ink in between those orbs if you've got a little bit of white showing through that you don't want, or you can leave it with that white. There's no right or wrong. Just whatever you want to do on your tile. And then we'll add our petals here. So I always start with the central petal. It's going to go off my page a little bit there. I'm going to do a little three nubbed petal there. And then I'm going to kind of come out here just like that. And we're going to create this as best we can. Now off the page here, I'm not getting much love from that small spot, but that's okay. And then I'm just making a couple little flicks here just to give some sense to those funny little petals, and that just adds a fun little flower shape to our tile there. And I'm going to add one more to each of these areas that allow me room to do so. I might just vary the size of it so that I can squeeze it in here a little better. Add those petals again. Just some happy little flower looking shapes popping up on our tile here. And I'm going to do one more on mine right here. And you may have more or less spots for yours, or even if you have spots, you may say, you know what, I don't want that there, or maybe I want two in one area. That's the fun of Zentangle pattern drawing, is that we have a pattern, but we're not drawing anything that's supposed to look like something. There's no picture out there that you can compare this to and say, well, wait, it doesn't look like that, or it's not quite right. Doesn't matter. You're just creating your own form of art here. Just like that. So I'll zoom out and you can kind of see what we've done there. So we've got a little row of henna drum flowers peeking out at us. Now as I look at my tile, I'm wondering about what we should have over here. Maybe nothing, but let's look at it for a moment. I think for the moment I'm going to leave that. But what I do want to do is let's ink in these spots here around the inside shape. Now, if you don't want that much ink, what you can do is draw a few additional lines to make that spot a tiny bit smaller. If you don't need or want that much darkness on the tile, or that drama as it's often called in Zentangle, contrast. But I think it will be nice, since we've got a lot of lines here, to give the eye something to pause on with that black area. So I'm going to ink that in on mine. And the inking process always takes a few moments, so you either love it or hate it. I tend to enjoy just having my thoughts and being able to be mindful of things, even if it's just my drawing. If we're just trying to forget the cares of the day, or relax at the end of a busy day, or get our mind ready for the day ahead, depending when we're drawing, I like the process of just paper or pen to ink. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. Pen to paper. I like that. There's something that I enjoy about the feeling of the pen scratching along the paper. Not to say I don't like a smooth pen. I do. But it's just fun to take a look at the whole process and just let it happen and enjoy each step of the way. Let's see here. Well, good. I'm glad you're keeping up, Gail. Thank you. And your name isn't easy, but thanks for trying. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Line, I'm not sure, not knowing the nationality, but I am glad you're here. And if I've tortured your name, please forgive me. I just am grateful that you're here. And you're new for tangling and doodling. That's great. This channel really, this is a great opportunity maybe for me to comment on that. I am a certified Zentangle teacher, so I do have that, and I love Zentangle. I use it almost daily in my own life, just for warm-up, for other art. I use it because I like the drawing itself. I love teaching classes. It has many, many applications, not just for folks who are into art, but folks who are beginning, folks who are new to the idea of drawing, and they need some structured way to start that, and that and many, many other reasons. Zentangle is a really great tool or method that can be used to bring artistic and creativity skills to so many people. And there are some artists who specialize in Zentangle, and they do just beautiful, very elaborate, and very beautiful compositions that they come up with for their art. And occasionally I'll stumble on something that I am proud of with a composition too, but it's really more about the randomness of patterns and how they can come together to create interesting shapes, and if we can use them wisely in compositions, that's great too, of course. But for me, my point was, I love Zentangle. I will continue to practice it for as long as I can, obviously. But I also enjoy and have enjoyed nearly my entire life drawing other forms of art as well. And you've seen a little bit of this on the channel where I've done cartoon drawings, or I've done little monsters, I call them, and characters and science fiction creatures and so on. And it's just really interesting for me to draw those other things, and Zentangle is just a part of what I do. So I hope those of you who are here purely for Zentangle, of course, I welcome you. I hope you won't run away just because I said I also draw other things. But I like to share and hopefully inspire people to try new things. And so I've even done online here, as you've known with my channel, the project packs, if you will, or the Zentangle projects that combine patterns from the Zentangle world with cartoon or science fiction elements or other elements like we did in the Ocean Project. And those have been very well received. People have given some really positive and encouraging feedback. And I think that's just a sign that Zentangle is fantastic and it's not limited to one kind of thing, but other art also plays an important role in my life and can in yours as well. And so hopefully if this is just the gateway drug to other drawing, that's great. If all you ever do is Zentangle, that's great. But hopefully you can appreciate and enjoy other folks with that. I see here, okay, so I wasn't too far off. So Line Merethe, would that be correct? Or Merethe? Norwegian, that's excellent. My ancestors are from Denmark, so that same part of the world over there. And yeah, neurographic drawing. Now, I'm not as familiar with the details of that, but I do know that Zentangle is used in its formal sense for all kinds of therapeutic details and meditative practices and so on. It really has a great thing for that. So I hope I got the name a little better. Line Merethe. I hope that that's somewhere in the right ballpark there. But again, thanks for taking the time to comment and helping me out there. I appreciate that. So I've got this inked in, and I'm hoping that everyone else is feeling pretty good about their piece so far. And let's, if we're not too far behind or too far ahead here either way, let's go ahead and start doing some shading on this drawing. We'll take a look here, and let's do some of that. I'm going to put my pen away and pull out my graphite pencil, and let's add some basic graphite. Let's see, I'm going to probably use this one, I think. So one thing that we can shade, let's shade on the outside here first. We'll work our way in. I'm going to add a little graphite along these flower petals and along the base. Just little, I'm making simple little marks that can be blended. I don't want to lay down a ton of graphite here and make this turn into a whole charcoal drawing or something like that. But we're just adding a little bit there that will blend. And so I'm going to do that to all these little flower shapes. And graphite is notoriously tough to see unless it's really dark on the camera because it reflects light. It has a shining quality to it. So sometimes it's hard, and also the subtleties of it, the cameras don't always capture perfectly. So, but what we'll do here by blending this is we're just creating some tonal differences. And I talk a lot about that in my videos, so if it's repetitive, I certainly apologize for that. That can be annoying or boring. But the idea of tonal differences, the difference in tone, darknesses, shades of gray, blacks, whites, highlights, things like that, it is the difference in tone that really makes a drawing have dimensionality to it, what some people call the 3D effect. And if you imagine drawing a portrait of someone's face and just drawing some lines where their nose is and shapes where their eyes are and so on, you might see that it's a face, but you're going to miss that it has any sort of realistic qualities to it or dimensional qualities. Now, even if you're drawing cartoons, there's a big difference between a flat two-dimensional cartoon, and one that looks like the shape is really there. It's really sitting there on the page, and it has something in front and behind, and there's a scenario to it. And whether it's cartoons, ultra-realistic drawing, whatever, adding that tonal difference and that quality is really, really important. Oh, Irishman, you got to take off. Hey, I understand live streams in the middle of the day are tough for everyone, I would think. So I'm grateful for anyone that showed up. Thank you so much for participating today and for being a part of the channel, even in Discord and so on. So thank you. I hope your own, I think you had said earlier to me that you had a stream of your own. I hope it goes really well and have great fun with it. But thanks again for joining me today. I appreciate that. So back to our shading here and tonal qualities. Now we could, the fun thing with shading a Zentangle drawing, since we're not imitating anything in life, we're just trying to create a sense of depth and dimension and tonal differences, as I mentioned. We can shade the same thing in multiple different ways. You're very welcome. Thank you, Irishman. Bye-bye now. What we can do is we could shade the outer edges of these things wherever different patterns overlap, so that we create a dimensionality there, like an over and under depth. We can shade inside and just create a different sense there. We can go as elaborate or as minimal as we'd like. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to shade each individual little pattern, and then I'll see if I want to add more shading to separate those patterns. So I'm going to shade these along the edges. Like these little lines disappear somewhere behind the edge of my little loop there. So I'm going to do that on all of those. So I'm just adding some graphite to those outer edges, and I'll blend it. And I'm going to do the same thing with all of these same shapes. Some people ask too, by the way, what pencils and pens and so on I use. I already mentioned earlier, I'll just comment. I use Micron Pigma. They're made by Sakura Pigma Micron pens, and the 01 refers to the size of the tip. So an 08 is larger than the 01, and the 10 is larger than the 8, and so on. I think their largest size they have is a 12, and the smallest is like a 003, I think. I believe is the smallest. And those are for super fine, ultra light lines that are really fun when you're doing cross-hatching and details like that. On other types of drawing, they wouldn't always have much use in a Zentangle pattern just because it's a smaller design to begin with. And then I use General's pencils. These are fantastic. This adds a nice extra black tone to the shadows, and it's really, really nice. I use a standard HB, which would be comparable to like a number 2 pencil. I have mechanical pencils that use HB lead, but it just is convenient because I don't have to keep sharpening them. I love the Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils. Those I use more for my drawing outside of Zentangle, just my sketching and graphite drawings, whether they're cartoons or realistic or whatever. I've got, good grief, I've got all kinds of different ones. Here's some Mars Lumograph black pencils. Those are really fun. I'm just sharing this with you because people have been interested, but also it gives you a little time to catch up if you have not. Just recently tried these by Faber-Castell. They're pit graphite. They're supposed to be standard graphite, but the mixture of the actual graphite makes them less shiny and less gray, and they have more of a black tone. They're really nice for that, but I'm using some other ones. Those ones I just showed you, the Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black, I kind of like those a little bit better, but they're both similar product. And I had to try, I don't know where I've been for decades, I guess, but I had never until recently, even though all these years of drawing and writing and so on, I have never heard of the Blackwing pencil until just, I don't know, a month and a half or so ago. So I got myself a little starter pack of these Blackwing pencils that came with 3 sizes. They have this very unique and distinctive ferrule here at the end with the eraser, but they are supposedly made with very high quality Japanese graphite that is a special blend and mixture used only in these pencils, and I have found them to be amazing. They're amazing pencils. I'm not sure at this point if they'll replace any of my other professional tools, but they are remarkable. The downside, of course, is the cost. They're about $5 or $6 a pencil, which is kind of insane, actually. But it's just how it goes. You can buy them in larger bulk. It's like, I think, $40 for 12 pencils or something like that. But anyway, that's a whole side path there. But I just thought I'd share that while we're waiting. Hopefully everyone is kind of caught up with us now, and let's continue our shading process. So before I start blending these, I'm going to add my graphite here. I'm going to add a little bit of graphite to the center of these little spiral shapes, and then also just a tiny bit on the outer edge, because I want to create a recessed look. I want it to look like those things are spinning off underneath the loops that we've made there. And the reason we would do that is just for that visual effect of over and under or dimensionality. And by adding some tonal qualities here, some tonal differences, that will change the appearance of these shapes. And by adding a little graphite to the center, it will make it look like that is recessed down. So like these little spinning wheels here, or peppermint candies, or whatever you want to call them, they will appear to have some shape to them and not just be flat lines. So let's shade this or blend this now and see what we get. So I'm going to just gently blend these edges in. And I'm just using a tortillon, which is a rolled paper stump. And it just allows us to very gently blend that graphite. Now some people use a Q-tip, like an ear swab, and they use that to blend, and that works fine. You just have a little less control or precision, perhaps. So that's why, and these are readily available and they're quite inexpensive. You can also use a paper stump, which these are rolled. A tortillon is rolled paper. It's just rolled very, very tightly. I don't know if you can see that there. But a paper stump is the same idea, but it is compressed paper. And so it's like a solid piece, and you literally have to sharpen it with a little piece of sanding paper to keep it sharp and so on. Those are really nice for more involved blending and so on. But so now we're going to just blend these details just around the edge, just creating a little bit of a graduated tonal shadow there and a little bit in the center. And see what that does already to that shape? It just takes on a whole new appearance. I know some folks don't really care for the shading of drawings because it can be tedious. But these drawings are small to begin with, so even a more detailed one isn't too bad. It doesn't take hours or anything to shade. It just takes a little time, a little practice, a little bit of patience, the opportunity to have more of those mindful moments. And I was going to mention, too, some people just will smear graphite with their finger. That's fine. Tons of artists do that. But just be aware that when you smear with a paper with your finger, oils from your skin are imparted to the paper, and that can affect how the graphite blends, whether your ink lines will go down smoothly, and so on. May not be a big deal in Zentangle, but in other types of art, that can be a major factor to consider. All right, so now on these, I'm just going to put a little graphite on each end. I only have a couple of those to worry about, and then I'll just blend that toward the center a little bit, just giving it a little sense of shape there. Not a big deal, but we can do that same thing here to our center where we used this ravel design or pattern, as it's called, ravel, to create this little star shape in the center. I'm going to add a little graphite to each tip of that just as I work around. And then I want to do it in the center here as well. I want to try to leave that middle piece white if I can. And then if you've got some where they overlap, sometimes you can shade that in a way that it really can bring out that overlap. So let's see, it's a very small piece, so we may not be able to get that effect as well as we'd like, but let's give it a try here. So I'm just adding where those lines look like they go underneath other lines. That's where I'm adding a hint of graphite. I'll just blend that very subtly. We'll see if we can get a little bit of a fun effect here. Well, bye, Tamberly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you were in the Zen, and we'll have to do more of these, as you said. That's something I'd like to do as well. Thank you so much for joining with me today, and I'm sorry that you had to take off, but I totally understand. Totally understand. And looks like Karen, thank you for joining us today, Karen. I didn't see that pop up till just now. How often will we be doing the lives? I don't have at this moment a set schedule for lives, but since this one seems to be going well, no major failures, I think that we're going to be doing these from time to time. I enjoy it. I love the live interactions and the teaching and so on. And we'll probably do different ones. They won't always be Zentangle. Sometimes we'll be drawing some cartoon characters, or maybe we'll do other types of art and just introduce everybody to it in a way that's able to be participated in, but isn't going to be locked into one kind of drawing. I know Zentangle is a big draw for the channel. It wasn't by design. I'm super thrilled by it and grateful for it, but I do want to continue to do other types of art as well. So hopefully, whatever the content of the live is, hopefully you'll all find it fun and interesting to participate. And I look forward to doing a lot of these. But yeah, at this point, I don't have a specific schedule. I'll try to always send out notifications. I know this time around the notifications were pretty short and quick because I had a limited window of availability this week, and I just wanted to get it done. But yes, let's do more of them, and thank you for the interest, Karen. I appreciate that. And Jerry, thank you for joining us today. I'm glad that you're having fun with the live stream, and really looking forward to getting to know some of you folks more. If you're return visitors or new, either way is fine, of course, but really grateful for that. Oh, Karen, I appreciate that. I'm so glad to hear that feedback. I know, like I said, the vast majority of feedback on the channel has been very, very positive and encouraging, but I do know that there's been a preference, at least thus far, for Zentangle drawings, which is awesome, and I'm not going to stop them, but I do appreciate the enjoyment of those other options as well. It just gives us more fun things to do, right? The more options we have, the better it is. At least that's the way I think about it. And I love art. I love expressing myself with these patterns and the shapes that come out of it. I love expressing myself with cartoons, with weird creatures, science fiction, game characters. I mean, I don't care. It's just really fun. Sometimes I sit around and draw trees or leaves or plants or insects. It just gives me the opportunity to draw and to create and to feel that connection with the things that I'm coming up with, whether it's in my mind or in reality. It's really fun. All right, so we've done some of those pieces and given some life to it. Let's now do a little something with our border, or this Aura 3D kind of thing that we created. So I like to shade these. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can create shadow and blendings all around, or you can assume that where these little lines are is sort of a recess, right? It kind of goes down in there if this has an actual dimensional shape to it. So maybe that's where the best shadow would be. So I create a little graphite around right along that line, and we'll be able to blend it outward in both directions. And so I'll show you here what I mean. So I'm creating just a little graphite in these corners. Whoops, I'm sorry, I did go down the wrong line. I'm not going to worry about that, but I'll correct it here. My angle fooled me. So we're doing where these corner lines are, just little bits of graphite. I'm just following the line itself, or maybe slightly outside of it. You don't have to worry about precision there because we're going to blend it. But we're just slopping that stuff in here. Nope, bear with me one moment. Oh, Lena there, yes, the Dingsplatz is what this initial shape is called, the little swirls that we made on the tile to begin. That is what Zentangle calls the Dingsplatz. It's just a random shape that we can use to give us a framework in which to draw other tangles. But this whole pattern now is not the Dingsplatz technically, because we could use different patterns every single time. We could we could change it up every single time. We could use auras, not use auras. We could use curves and lines and in completely different ways. So, but the base pattern of the Dingsplatz are these looping lines that we drew when we started. I hope that helps. Does that make sense? And then this is this is the ravel pattern, and this is oh gosh, I've already forgotten what it's called now. The pepper, this is henna drum, this is a form of hybrid or betweed, and so we've used other patterns, crescent moon here, but we've put them into the Dingsplatz initial shape. That's kind of how those details should be clarified. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. So once though we go back now to our shading, and we're just putting ink or graphite, I should say, along these lines where we are assuming there is a recess. And then what I'm going to do is blend this graphite outward from that line in each direction. And so it creates an interesting little sense of depth and dimension there. So I want a little more in that center. Just like that. Let me zoom in here for you. I want you to just see what's happening here. So we're just blending this graphite that we laid down there, and we don't care about how it ends. It's what I call a rough ending. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line where the shading ends. We just want it to blend out from that shape, from that spot there, which will create a sense of dimension and shape. And once we do this around here and zoom back out, you'll see how suddenly this, what we created with just a couple lines, now looks like it has actual form and dimension to it, and shape. And that's what really is neat about this very simplified approach to shading. It just gives us the ability to bring things to life and give them that dimension. And I'm sorry there if I seem to be ignoring everyone on the chat. I just get into my drawing and my talking, my stories, and my details here. So we're just filling this in, blending these out where we've placed that graphite. Very gentle and subtle. But it'll turn that white piece that just looked like a white flat spot on our paper, it suddenly now will take on a sense of shape and dimension, which is so cool. And it doesn't take much graphite, depending on the paper that you're using and the darkness level of the graphite, the softness of it. It will take more or less pressure to blend it. Now, the Zentangle tiles that I like to use for these drawings, it's not required. It's not an essential part of the drawing process, but it's just a nice thing. They're very high quality paper, and they have a rough texture to them so that we can more easily blend and move graphite around, and that is a really helpful thing. But if you have a smoother paper, you can still do it. It's just that it's a little trickier. It requires a little more effort. So now as I look at this tile, I think we're getting along here pretty good. Yes, Line, the loopy shape is the Dingsplatz itself, and then all these other things are, other tangles, or some of them have names, some of them don't. Yeah, when I first started doing Zentangle many years ago, I struggled with that too. Trying to remember the names for everything, and it has a strong background in the formal Zentangle method that different patterns have to be named and so forth, and it's fine. I have no problem with that. And the names are helpful because they can refer people to what's called a step out. So if you're new to the Zentangle world, a step out is a step-by-step guide on how to draw a particular pattern. So it would not be a step-by-step guide for this whole drawing, but it would be a step-by-step guide for how to create henna drum, or how to create crescent moon, or how to create pepper, and so on. And those step outs are usually created or designed by a particular artist, often a certified Zentangle artist. And they will sort of formalize the basic shape, and they'll say, this shape, which looks like this when it's finished, here's how you get to it, and then they'll break it down. Now, a formal step out should have usually no more than 8 steps, and each step should not involve multiple sub-steps, because then it really becomes, I'm doing a drawing and not a pattern. If I have a pattern, if I said this whole thing I'm going to formalize into a step out, it would take 30, 40 step outs, and we're not doing a pattern then, we're doing a drawing. So a pattern is something that can be easily repeated over and over again, even though it can be modified and done in a unique way. But the basic pattern can be repeated in a given space or a given area, and that is what the step out defines. So those names help us to find or identify those step outs. But I will say it is not necessary. So I don't want anyone to feel frustrated or stressed out by trying to remember all the names. It's helpful, like I said, when you're trying to find out, how did I draw that? I can't remember how I put that together. Then finding the step out by the name of the pattern is super convenient, of course. But you can still do drawings without having any idea what the patterns are called. And I often forget. I've literally over the years have learned hundreds, if not thousands, of different patterns or variations of other patterns, and it's just impossible for my aging brain to remember all of them too. So sometimes I have to look it up, and that's fine. Don't let that intimidate you or be a roadblock for you. But great question. So thank you for asking that. And let's see, I'm going to go back here now, and I've looked at this, and I do want to add some shading that will lift these loops from the background. So I'm going to add a little bit of a darker line around this whole border. So I'm not going to shade that individual piece that we kind of put in the background there, or that I did, but I am going to shade around these loops as they touch upon that shape, because then I can create further depth and dimension and not worry about turning it into a mud pile. If I tried to shade individual details here and then added shadows, it would just get so much graphite that I couldn't see the pattern anymore. So we don't want that. At least that's not normally desirable. But I am going to add this shade around the loops and that border where it touches that other pattern. And that, I think, will create some fun background details here as well. And we're getting close to the end of this particular tangle, so we'll take an assessment here in a moment and see where things are at with everyone. But let's finish this up with these details. Hopefully you've been able to keep up along with me. And if your drawing isn't as smooth and crisp and perfect as you'd like it to be, first of all, welcome to art. No artist is ever 100% pleased with their drawings. We always look at it after we're done, no matter what kind of drawing it is, and we think, oh, I should have done this, or if I'd only made that a little bit different here. Those kind of things are inevitable. But I was going to say, if your drawing isn't exactly how you'd like it to be, or you didn't have a chance to put in the details that you wanted, then you can always draw again. You just pop up the video if you want to follow along, and you can pause it, since it won't be live once that happens, and then you can just draw to your heart's content at whatever pace is helpful for you. So always feel free to do that. And that's one reason I wanted to start this drawing channel. There's millions, if not thousands, of amazing artists, both Zentangle and otherwise, on YouTube and other online forums, and they all have so much to offer, and I'm just very thrilled and encouraged and so grateful that you've chosen to watch my silly videos. So thank you for doing that, and I hope you'll continue to be part of this community and part of our efforts to become more involved artists and to enjoy the process of creating and making art. All right, so now look at that. See how that lifts those details off the page a bit more? And we could even add some shadow along where they touch other shapes as well if we'd like. And here I'm just using the graphite that's already on the tortillon because I don't necessarily want to make that super dark. And now we've got our shape about like that. Well, in this case, I think that we're going to call that one good right there, just for today's session anyway, this particular drawing. So I'm going to add my chop, which in Zentangle world is the signature. Most artists sign their drawings. I have different signatures I use in different art, but for my Zentangle drawings, I use my initials in a little bit of a formalized pattern here. So I just add those details there. And a common thing too that Zentangle artists will do is they will use the back of their tile or paper and they'll record the date, and they'll put that on their drawing so they remember when they drew it, and maybe they'll even list the different details of the drawing. So we could put on here Dingsplatz, and then we could list the individual patterns that we used in this. So we've got a whole bunch of them here. So we've got, we used crescent moon. This is one way, Line, that you can use to create a helpful tip for yourself to remember whenever you do a drawing. Jot the names on the back, and then you'll know in the future if you needed to. Hello there, Yelitsa. Thank you for joining us today. I'm glad that you've been with us, or hopefully you've been enjoying drawing with us and watching along, if nothing else. Thank you so much for joining. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, by the way. I apologize to everyone whose name I've tortured today. Forgive me for that. But hopefully I've got it as close as I can there anyway. And let's see, henna drum is the flower. That's correct. Yep, and that's, so I'll add that here on the back. And henna drum is it's a very popular tangle because of the flower. So many people love the floral designs, which I totally understand. But henna drum can be drawn in a zillion different ways and modified and changed, but the basic pattern is just as we showed there today. And that is fun. Any advice to get better at the lines to be even? Some of mine look like you've done them at the pub. You know, I should show you some of my drawings, Line. I have done, not at the pub, but they might even be worse. We might think worse if we saw that. Let's see, we also had Ravel. And here, I'll give you a couple thoughts and tips in just a moment here. I'll try to jump to another spot. And we had Pepper. These are just some of the patterns that we threw in there today. Henna drum, Ravel. Oh, and then Hybrid was a type. It was kind of like hybrid, or oh gosh, I would call it maybe oh my goodness, Betweed is the other one that looks similar to this, and there are slightly different versions, but we can just jot that. So that's just a way to remember kind of what we did there, and in this particular drawing. And we could tweak this endlessly, and we could add shading to the outside. We could add some highlights. If you were so inclined, you could add color with markers or colored pencils. Just a lot of fun things that you can do. But let me set that aside for just a moment. I'm going to pull out my infamous Post-it practice pads here. These are just Post-its that I do tons of sketches. Just before we started today, I was doing a sketch on a Post-it of a little monster creature that I may draw here soon. So things like that I sketch out all the time. I like to just do quick sketches on my Post-it. But you were asking about lines. So lines, of course, can be curved, and they can be, you know, different shapes and directions. They can be straight. They can have, you know, flick to them, etc. So when we're talking about lines, the short answer is you just have to practice. But there are things that you can do. A lot of people will hold their pen very low, and in general, the closer to the tip you hold the pen, the more control of the pen you will have. However, the closer you hold to the end, the tendency for people is to hold and grip so tightly that your muscles are working against you, and you actually will create wiggliness in your line by holding it too tight. So if you watch videos of other artists, or even myself when I do certain kinds of sketching, you'll see that I'm holding the pen up further. Now when you're doing really light sketching, I literally will hold it way back like this, and I'm just using general motions to create something. And that's fine, because you can use the other tip at the moment, just, and I'll blend these all together here for you as a tip idea. But when you're holding a pen or pencil, you can use your fingers. Let me zoom out. I want to show you this here. So you can use your hand and your fingers to create lines, which is done when you're doing cross-hatching. But you can also use your whole arm when you're holding the pen or pencil out here, and that arm movement starts at the shoulder. And that's going to be a smoother, less precise, but a smoother flow of your line. So taking that principle, when you're drawing lines, and you try, number one, to not hold the pen super close. Hold the pen up a bit. And if you already are doing that, then good. You're good to go. But the other thing is to relax. Don't grip the pen or pencil super tightly. Just let the pen move with your hand, with your fingers. Now, the tighter I hold, of course, I can put more pressure on those lines. I can make flicks with things differently. And when you're shading and scribbling, of course, it's different. But when you're trying to draw a simple line, just try to relax. Now, it is inevitable, unless you are using that shoulder pattern, that your lines are going to have a sense of wobbliness to them. Now, I'll show you, if I draw a halfway decent line here, and then another one, and another one, and another one. Now, those don't look too bad. Now, if I zoom in, you can see the imperfections. They're not perfectly straight, and especially if you're doing orbs and things that require a little more precision and so on, you're putting orbs in between a line, let's say, what'll happen is those orbs will become imperfect. You'll overlap them a little bit. See how I flick there? Those are just things that just come with practice, and you'll never avoid it. The neat thing is, with many kinds of drawing, Zentangle, sketching, character sketching, cartoon sketching, whatever, the precision and perfect smoothness of our lines is not important. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but in many cases, it's just not something that we want. If you took an artist who drew the straightest, most precise lines you could imagine and compared it to a computer, his would still look imperfect in most cases. But what gives art, hand-drawn art, that unique appearance and that wonder is that it's not perfect. It doesn't look robotic or stamped out on a computer printer or something like that. So hopefully, I know that was a lot of babbling there. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of thoughts, and there's many more details we can get into in future videos, but hopefully those couple comments, Line, will give some helpfulness to you. Well, it looks like we've got to the end of our drawing here today. What is our time? We've run for about an hour and a half. So this has been a really good session. I've enjoyed it immensely. I hope you have as well. I haven't even checked to see how many folks we had viewing with us today. That's something I'll have to review afterwards. But I think that for today, we're going to call this session done. But I am so grateful again for everyone who's joined. Thank you for your comments, your questions, and for taking the time out of your days to spend a little bit drawing and chatting with me. I appreciate it immensely. I hope that you'll look forward to our next live session and keep your eyes peeled. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I know I said I would never ask people to do that, but the reason I ask is I hope that the notifications that go out will help people to know when new things are released and so on. Oh, yes, Line, I actually have really severe arthritis in my hands, in my knuckles and wrists and so on, and it's been really troubling for me. But practicing daily and doing stretches with my hands and so on has really helped. There are days, though, when I draw for a few hours and I think I'm going to cry because my hands hurt so bad. But it's just something that I love too much to give up until I absolutely can't do it anymore. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But I hope that even if your lines are wiggly, you'll feel like you should still keep making art the best you can. It's just a great thing for folks to do. But with that, I think I'm going to give a few minutes here to time out. I'm going to put up a little screen with some music just as we kind of fade out here. The chat will remain open for a couple minutes yet. If you have ideas or thoughts or comments you'd like to make, I'll be here watching for a few more minutes. But thank you, everyone, for joining me in this live session today. It was really fun. It really, really was. I hope you enjoyed doing a Dingsplatz. And I look forward to seeing everyone again really soon here in the next session or in the next video here in the Tangles and Toons channel. Until then, I hope everyone has a great day and take care. Bye-bye now.